Loch Ness monsters, Cthulhus, and other rumored creatures lurking in the deep oceans have fueled our imaginations and haunted our sea travels for countless generations. As far as modern science is concerned, many of these mammoth beasts don't exist, but with less than 5% of our oceans fully explored, there's still a chance for some of these legendary monsters to show up. And while we wait for them to reveal themselves on the surface, we can settle for the evidence we do have. That's right, the Hub has searched our shores far and wide to uncover the 10 largest creatures found on beaches. And while you're swimming with the Hub, be sure to click the red subscribe button. Consider it your life preserver for this and all future journeys you make with the Hub. Our videos will tell you where to go, what to see, and how to find it, keeping you dry the entire time. Washed up whales. If you go to the beach on a sunny afternoon, you may find a washed up shell, a washed up piece of driftwood, or a washed up actor living in a tent in between auditions. But do you expect to come across a gigantic whale carcass? Well, that's exactly what happened on beaches around Boston and South Africa in 2012. It was a concerning find to discover these water mammals mutilated and beached in 2 entirely different locations around the world. Examining the carcasses gave scientists a good idea of the obstacles whales face in the water around Cape Town and off the coast of Massachusetts. And while it can seem disconcerting to us landlocked viewers, it's actually a common occurrence during fall months, according to the manager of the Waste Management Department of Cape Town, South Africa. Now, waste management teams can serve as experts on whale disposal because they usually are tasked with moving the bodies to nearby landfills for the whale's final resting place. It's quite a feat considering they could weigh around 60 tons and measure 98 feet long. These particular whales were victims of predatory attacks, most likely by great white sharks. TRUNKO the blob. The shores of South Africa are teeming with wildlife, but the oddest creature to wash up ashore goes by the name of TRUNKO. Originally appearing in a 1924 issue of London's Daily Mail, the piece reported that witnesses in Margate, South Africa, watched as a long elephantine trunk covered in white fur was grappling with 2 orcas in an action-packed sea melee. Leaping and parrying, these creatures fought an epic fight, lasting 3 hours long, like the 1920s version of Lord of the Rings. In the end, TRUNKO lost, and the white furry beast was beached, at which point onlookers described the 47-foot-long creature as having no discernible face except for its long frontal trunk and appeared to have a lobster-like tail. After several other news outlets reported the event with different dates and conflicting details, cryptozoologist Carl Schuker concluded in the late 1990s and early 2000s that TRUNKO was most likely remains that the killer whales were fighting over. After nearly 90 years, when pictures did emerge from the TRUNKO event, Schuker was able to confirm that TRUNKO was a globster. And no, globster isn't short for glow-in-the-dark lobster. It just means that this beast was more likely a decomposed whale whose exposed tissue gave it the appearance of a fur-covered body. The sturgeon. America's own beaches aren't immune to overhyped happenings. In 2012, the people of Folly Beach in South Carolina erupted in sea creature fever when they woke up to a decomposing slug beast just basking in the sun. It looked like a giant alien snake at around 14 feet in width, nearly a ton in weight, and with a scaly yellow diamond pattern along its back and sides. It's hardly a new discovery to the science world, however. When experts were dispatched to the area, they quickly categorized this beast as a sturgeon, one of the oldest surviving fish in the sea, with a family line extending back 200 million years. Sturgeons have been around since before many species of dinosaur. Although this one's life was cut short, the creatures as a whole have enjoyed a long and healthy existence. Unfortunately, sturgeon numbers are dwindling, and scientists have been monitoring their migratory patterns, with some species traversing far along rivers to reach their destinations. South Carolina isn't unique to sturgeon-teeming beaches, and if you're on a coast in the Northeast, watch out. Sturgeons from the area around Folly Beach, South Carolina, have been known to migrate as far north as Delaware and New York, perhaps further. The St. Augustine Monster. Another famous globster washed up on the coast near St. Augustine in 1896, and like the beginning of any horror movie, it was found by 2 boys innocently playing any normal kids game from the late 1800s, like Hit the Wheel with a Stick or Jumanji. Then all of a sudden they came across the St. Augustine Monster. That title sounds pretty foreboding, but for the longest time nobody knew exactly what the creature was. Like TRUNKO, it was an amorphous, washed-up blob that people assumed was an undiscovered beast. Upon further investigation, the kids believed it to be some decaying whale, which was good gumshoe work on their part. The head of the St. Augustine Historical Society, Dr. DeWitt Webb, however, was convinced that this monster was actually a gigantic octopus due to what he perceived as hacked-off tentacles and chopped limbs. Many years later, scientists examined a preserved sample from the monster and determined that the test subject actually had sperm whale tissue. All this time searching for a horrifying monster, only to find out it was actually the friendliest looking swimming mammal. Seriously, just look at a sperm whale's face and tell us that thing doesn't want to be your pal. Whale on the rocks. Whales on beaches are nothing new, but this whale on the shore of Devon Beach in the UK gives the whole scene an otherworldly vibe. The tide pushed it far inland and left the fin whale on the rocks of the North Devon Heritage Coast. After blue whales, fin whales are the next largest animals on Earth, and seeing one up close, trapped on a stony beach, feels naturally out of place. The cause of its mooring was not determined, but it could have ended up there due to disease or pollution. Please note though that these animals are incredibly resilient, many living as old as 94 years. Certain lucky razorback whales have lived up to 140. Maybe this whale just got a little confused in its advanced years and wandered into the wrong waters. Regardless, fans of whales will want to see these animals and their waterways as safe and easily navigable as possible. Unfortunately endangered, fin whales were hunted for sport and their numbers weaned down to 38,000 worldwide by the late 1990s. Although they're still hunted in Japan and Iceland, they are protected along the coast of England and Ireland, and they're an example of the majesty and beauty that lies under the sea. Giant eyeball. Some say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but if you were holding a single eye, would you think it's that beautiful? Found on Pompano Beach in 2012 by beachcomber Gianno Cavacci, this single eye with a deep blue iris is larger than a softball and was believed to belong to some large animal. Cavacci normally digs up shells and whatever small fish he can find, so he was shocked to find this portion of a larger fish. Excitedly, he speculated that it belonged to a huge squid and challenged scientists to prove him wrong. After scientists analyzed the surrounding bone tissue that clung to the eyeball, they were able to put all the wild theories to rest. This eye didn't belong to a giant shark, octopus, or sharktopus. It was in fact the dark indigo pupil of a ginormous swordfish. Based on markings left on the eyeball, analysts determined it had been pulled out by a fisherman's hook and then floated to shore. The swordfish, however, has not turned up. Presumably, after the hooking incident, the swordfish wrenched himself free, flipped the fisherman the middle fin, and swam on his merry way. BENBECULA beach monster. On BENBECULA in 1990, a teenage girl named Louise Witz stumbled across this 12-foot-long behemoth while strolling across the sand. BENBECULA sounds like the name of Dracula's brother, but it actually is a beach located on an island off the coast of Scotland. The girl snapped a photograph of her find and brought it to Hancock Museum in Newcastle upon Tyne. They noted it was a blobster, and most likely some larger decomposed animal, but the girl noted that it was found near a facility reserved for the Ministry of Defense. She stated that it had hairy skin, similar to other blobsters, and as you know, these blobsters tend to be deceased whales. Going further though, she declared it had a curved neck and head, with multiple fins along the backside. While it most likely was a whale she mistook for some kind of weaponized nuclear shark thing, we'd prefer to imagine that the BENBECULA beach monster is actually the real-life version of Street Sharks. You know, Street Sharks? The early 90s TV show about crime fighting and street-smart sharks? Oh, you don't? Well, we won't judge you for it, but if you don't have a muscular land shark defending you, then you better hope you don't come across any kind of BENBECULA beach monster on your own. Loch Ness Monster. Just a couple hours drive from Loch Ness lies the location of a new sea monster to haunt your dreams. On the beaches of Hollingworth Lake in Rockdale, Greater Manchester, a long, snake-like creature with rows of sharp teeth was stumbled upon by random bystanders. Known as the Loch Ness Monster, this creature inhabited a location that was a little more country and a little less rock and roll. Even though the creature is lifeless, its fearsome face and black eyes are enough to strike terror into any would-be swimmers enjoying a day by the water. Although this urchin could easily be mistaken for some ancient dinosaur, it's more likely to be a large pikefish. Pike are carnivorous lake dwellers and tend to dominate any food chain in which they belong. Also, it's most likely that this 5-foot monstrosity is female, since they tend to be the largest and watch over an average of 200,000 eggs during their mating season. When she was alive, you wouldn't want to get in between this mother and her babies. Now that she's passed away, you'll want to make sure you don't run into any of her heirs looking to inherit the top honor as the Rock Ness Monster. Giant squid. On the beaches of New Zealand's South Island, visitors discovered a 23-foot-long giant squid. The animal was judged to be female, but no cause of death could be determined. She appeared healthy and showed no signs of susceptibility to deep-sea violence. This led researchers to believe the creature hadn't traveled very far between her place of death and her final resting place ashore. It also suggests that there may be more giant squids congregating closer to the shoreline than previously assumed. This may lead researchers to discover more large tentacled anomalies, since a 23-foot-long squid is small potatoes compared to the 59-foot monster that was the largest ever recorded. With the biggest eyes around 10 inches in diameter, giant squid can see you coming from far away, whether you're a goblin shark looking for a late-night snack, or a submarine captained by Nemo. Unfortunately, humans usually only have the chance to study deceased squid, so let's hope this South Island squid will give us the opportunity to learn more about this elusive and dangerous deep-sea predator, or at least give us a chance to try some new types of deep-fried calamari. Zuio Maru Monster. New Zealand was also ground zero for another interesting find, possibly more breathtaking than the giant squid of South Island. A Japanese vessel, the Zuio Maru, was sailing in the area off of Christchurch, New Zealand, when its nets drudged up a decaying beast at a depth of 1,000 feet. Once brought to the surface, the ship's captain declared it to be the carcass of a whale, but upon closer inspection, they couldn't define exactly what it was. Some of the crew went so far as to call it an enormous shellless turtle. Since this wasn't a scientific vessel, the crew thought it best to choose the freshness of the fish on board over the stink of the specimen in their nets, and they decided to drop the body back where they found it. When it became tangled, however, the crewmen got a closer look, and through photographs captured on the day, they marveled at how much this carcass resembled that of a prehistoric plesiosaur, the same species as the rumored Loch Ness Monster. Ultimately, scientists examining the Zuio Maru monster decided to dash the hopes of all those involved. They explained that the creature's remains resembled that of a large 33-foot-long basking shark. We know it's a boring explanation, but sometimes the truth hurts. Whether sensational or terrifying, shocking, or simply scientific, the oceans are full of creatures for us to study and monsters for us to meet. We've made many discoveries by land and sea, but there's still so many revelations awaiting you in the murky depths beyond your nearest beach. Thanks for scratching the surface with the hub and seeing the 10 largest creatures found on the beach. But don't stop now. Join our future searches into weird and unknown places. We'll see you soon. The hub will be waiting.